Showdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Nick Tasso. Taking a look at Tuesday pitching options for DraftKings and FanDuel. There was a lot of pitching on this slate after a lackluster Monday. I mean, there's pay-up options. There's a lot of mid-range options. So if you want offenses, I mean, there's plenty of kind of cheaper-ish pitching options.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of those slates we don't get too often where it's kind of balanced all throughout, which is nice. We got a few guys the same, but for the most part, I think we got a lot of different options that could definitely help people.
Yeah, and we can talk about the most expensive option first. That's Chris Archer. Pitching at home, that's where we usually typically recommend him. 284 WOBA allowed at home compared to 312 on the road. Toronto team, I mean, it's been pretty pedestrian outside of Josh Donaldson, who's red hot. This offense really cooled off after a decent stretch, I guess, over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a nice little run, but now they've come back to earth, and just not a huge fan of this Blue Jays offense. Like you said, Archer's really good at home, and there's a lot of righties in this lineup where he could kind of do a lot of strikeouts and good damage against him. But yeah, Archer is the number one guy. He is expensive, like you said, but I think he's well worth it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, he's 4 starts against Toronto this year. He's yet to allow more than 3 earned runs. He has 2 starts where he has double-digit strikeouts against them, and it's no surprise. I mean, Toronto's dead last against the slider, and Archer throws his slider about 44% of the time. So, if you want to fade him at the price on DraftKings 12-4, I'm okay with it because there are other options. He's not a must-play for me, but I definitely like him, and I think he actually might end up being kind of contrarian.
Yeah, I could definitely see a few of these starters see higher ownership than Archer just because they're priced a little bit better. So I kind of like that little narrative you got going.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next guy that we both liked. That was Charlie Morton. And we didn't talk about Morton before. So I kind of ask, why do you like him so much here?
Yeah, I mean, he gets to face the offense that is without Bryce Harper. He's been pretty good at home, 3.45 ERA. And you look at this offense in Washington this month, they've been really struggling with power. They're tied for 24th worst, basically, with the White Sox and Atlanta for home runs with only 20 this month. So that's kind of all you need to know. If Morton can really get around, say, Daniel Murphy, I think he's in a good spot here. And like I said, he's been good at home. It's obviously not a huge pitcher's ballpark, but Morton's figured a way here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement for all the same reasons. This lineup is not the same without Bryce Harper in it. Trey Turner obviously already missing. He's due back soon, but won't be back tonight. Yeah, and as you put it, over the last 30 days, this team's been pretty much bottom 10, and their strikeout rate's been incredibly high, 23% over the last 30 days. Morton can dial up the strikeouts. I like his ground ball rates, 50%. So a home matchup for him against the Nationals. I think people kind of overlook Morton on this slate. So with that being said, I like him a lot in GPPs. I probably won't look for him in cash games, but I think GPPs is where I'll kind of hold him at.
Yeah, absolutely. He is somewhat risky in cash, but he's not priced terribly, so I don't mind him. But like you said, this offense really just isn't the same anymore, so definitely GPPs.
Yeah. And then we start to differ off. We'll go to Kansas City here. I like Danny Duffy. You like the other side, John Gray. I usually feel like it would be reversed. Usually I'm the guy talking about John Gray.
Yeah, it's really funny. I've been talking about Gray a lot on the road, but he has a 6+ ERA on the road, which is really terrible. But over his past 6 starts, 3 of which have been on the road, he has a 3.68 ERA. He hasn't allowed any more than 3 runs in that game. I think the issue, though, for Gray that I always have is that his strikeout rate isn't as high as you'd expect it, right around 22%. It'd be nice if he was a little bit higher, give you a little bit more upside because Gray, even though he has been good, he's still a guy who at least gives up 1 run in most of his starts.
Yeah, I really don't mind Gray. I think Gray's a great pivot on this slate. I think he's a good low ownership play. I like Duffy on the other side just because you're getting Colorado away from Coors. And it's a huge drop off in their production. I mean, 28th in road WOBA, 24.3% strikeout rate. They're dead last in ISO. And then you really get, against lefties, at home they're fine, but on the road they're not as good. And Danny Duffy's extremely tough on left-handed bats. 217 WOBA with a 24.5% strikeout rate. And if they're going to throw in all those lefty outfielders that they have, Parra, Blackman, the other name is Carlos Gonzalez. I just think we're kind of looking at Duffy facing a pretty mediocre lineup outside of LeMahieu and Arenado.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Duffy is in a good spot as well. Lefties aren't too good for the Kansas City. I'm sorry, for the Colorado Rockies away from home. So I definitely like him in this matchup.
Yeah, and he's on the cheaper side too. Let's go to San Francisco. Jeff Samardzija taking on Milwaukee. Jimmy Nelson on the other side of that one. Both these guys have been pretty good. I mean, Nelson's strikeout rate has been phenomenal this year, and Nelson's the guy that you're taking a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to target San Francisco when they're at home. They just really aren't a good offense, and when they're at AT&T Park, it kind of ruins them a little bit more. Nelson hasn't been good on the road. I mean, he has almost 4.5 ERA, but like I just said, AT&T Park really is a good place for him to really settle down.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think Nelson's a bad option tonight. In that big ballpark, I mean, this offense is just really not that great. And you kind of look at this lineup. I mean, it's young. I know Buster Posey was out last night. He'd probably due back tonight, but you're missing Brandon Belt. So this is just it's such a bad lineup to get through. So Nelson's in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do have Pablo, right? I mean,
That's true.
Right, locked out.
Yeah, he just jumped right into the cleanup spot. That's how bad that team is.
Do you want to know something kind of funny? This is not about baseball, but the other day I was scrolling through CNN, and they had a guy on there in Boston whose last name was Sandoval. First name was Paulo. And I was like, oh, okay, there's the new Sandoval. But he wasn't playing baseball. He was just reporting.
It could be him under a fake name.
No, this guy was much thinner.
Well, that's not hard to do.
Yeah, I know, but he was really thin. So definitely not Pablo.
Yeah. On the other side of that Brewers game, I do like Jeff Samardzija. He's kind of cooled off quite a bit. I mean, he's been in some really good spots, and he's actually been a letdown, I guess, over the last 5 or 6 starts of him, but had one of his better outings against Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. Over the last 30 days, Milwaukee, 27% strikeout rate against opposing pitchers. Against righties, I mean, they already strike out a ton anyway. So I just think the strikeout upside is huge here. And Samardzija just doesn't really have that big blow-up risk. I mean, at most, his bad outings have been giving up 3 to 4 earned runs, and he still pitches deep into games. So, at his price tag, I mean, he's not really all that expensive, and I would even take that if he did have a little bit of trouble. So I'm okay with him in really all formats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Milwaukee has been struggling offensively, but they did add Neil Walker, so that's a huge boost for them. But even with that, I think Smart is still in a pretty good spot, good ballpark for him as well, like we've stated already.
Yeah. Patrick Corbin, this is a guy I was very close to talking about and writing up. So I'm glad you're talking about him. He's been really strong over his last few starts.
Yeah, he's been so good, and a good thing about it is he's on the road, and he gets to face a team that's kind of been depleted lately. I'm sure they've called up a few people, but they've traded away a lot of guys, especially like Bruce and so forth. So I definitely like Corbin in this matchup. Has a high strikeout percentage. There's a few lefties in there that he can kind of neutralize as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Mets lineup is really, as you said, I mean, the struggles of losing Bruce and losing Walker, it's already been showing, and calling up those young names with the higher strikeout rates. So I'm with you. I mean, he just has to get behind, Cespedes and Wilmer Flores. But outside of that, I think Corbin's a good spot here. And the fact that he's priced up a little bit, I kind of like that because it should lower his ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just has a high upside guy for me. And yeah, he's high priced, but I'm not too concerned about that. I think the matchup really doesn't matter. I mean, matters huge, so his price tag doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. My fifth and final guy, Lance Lynn, should be a popular one tonight, especially on 2-pitcher sites. Cash games, I think you plug him in at his price. He's only 7,400. Home matchup against the Padres. Lynn isn't a special arm. I mean, at home, he's probably a little bit more above average, but everything else is pretty much pedestrian stats throughout, allowing to lefties. He's been a little bit weak. He's better off at home, 272 WOBA allowed. San Diego's probably going to roll out a decent amount of right-handers in this lineup. Once again, the matchup is just phenomenal anytime you're facing San Diego. So as a huge home favorite, should get plenty of run support with Clayton Richard on the other side. So I think Lance Lynn, I mean, he's probably going to be a chalky option just because he is priced down facing the Padres at home. I definitely don't mind eating the chalk there.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I didn't put Lance Lynn in my top 5, just because, like you said, he's going to basically be the chalk. And unfortunately, my issue with Lance Lynn, too, is that he doesn't really seem to strike out enough guys. He's been doing a little bit better recently, but overall he might struggle doing that. And if everyone's on him and he doesn't get a high strikeout rate, then I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see fading him if he's going to be super hound in GPPs because, I mean, like you said, Lance Lynn isn't a special arm. Like, he's not anything special. And, this is more of a matchup and just being at home for me that makes him in play.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him. I just have a feeling that the ownership is just going to scare me away from him.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that play there. And, we've rattled off plenty of other options in similar price ranges.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Clayton Richard coming off a big game?
No.
No? Oh.
No, not at all.
You're not going to change the points?
No, I'm stacking Cardinals.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I mean, lots of options on this slate. I think, we talked about Archer being the most expensive, but other than that, it's a wide range there for a couple thousand less.
Absolutely.
So that's going to wrap it up with us and your puppies over there, and we'll check in with you tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.